Hey, welcome back. I'm Noah Church, and you're watching my video coaching series on recovery from pornography addiction, sexual dysfunction, and any other related issues. I have an email today from a rebooter that I'm going to work off of. He's got a couple of questions, and his last is a very interesting one. Inspired me to make this video. I've heard this question before. I've had this question myself, and it's an important one to talk about. Let's get into it. He says, first off, thanks for all the amazing work you've been doing with PIED. It means a lot. I'm glad to do it. I want people to find answers to their questions when they realize they have PIED or some issue that's preventing them from having a fulfilling, intimate connection. And I couldn't find those answers when I was first seeking them. I don't want other people to find the same emptiness that I found and feel alone. I had two questions I was wondering if you could shed some thoughts on. I'm 4 months into my reboot with mixed results and frequent flatlines. It seems whenever I have sex with my partner, I go into a 2-week flatline each time. Should I abstain from sex completely for longer than 2 weeks, even though I can get hard, or will this just eventually stop? This is fairly common during a recovery from PIED, that once you're able to have sex, still it seems like your libido is sensitive and can be pushed off the edge, and you can go into a flat line without much provocation. And so for guys who do find that orgasm sends them into this long refractory period or miniature flat line of a couple of weeks, yes, it can be helpful while you're still recovering to abstain from orgasm more than you normally are, or more than you're able to reach orgasm. And that shouldn't be something you have to do forever. Once you're fully recovered, you should have a normal, quote unquote, refractory period, but that means different things for different people depending on just your genetics, your physical body, your nutrition, your fitness, your age. A lot of different factors go into it. For some people, a normal refractory period might be a few minutes. For other people, it's going to be a day or two. But no, it shouldn't send you into a 2-week flatline after orgasm once you're fully recovered. And yes, you may be able to get there just by continuing on as you are, having sex when you can, having orgasm when you can, and eventually those flatlines should subside. But if you'd like to do something more proactive about this, you can abstain from orgasm, if not entirely, then at least reducing your frequency. And that doesn't necessarily mean abstaining from sex or intimacy. I've talked about this in other videos before. Forget the title, but I'll link it in the description down below. I'm not going to give a bunch of details in this video, but you should check out that article on my website. It's about how to have sex without orgasm. And if you're able to do this and figure out how to go about it, how to enjoy it, it can be very satisfying, very good bonding experience, and it should allow you to avoid that post-orgasm flatline and actually have sex more frequently, just have orgasm less frequently. And you can do this just by having sex the way you normally would and being aware and conscious of your level of arousal and backing off, taking breaks whenever you're getting too close. And you shouldn't get right up against the edge and then try to stop yourself. You should try to maintain a more steady plateau of pleasure. Or you can do something that's more like Carezza-style sex, and I write about that more in that article. It's a style of lovemaking that is not focused on orgasm. It's much slower, much less frantic, more about intimate emotional bonding than orgasm-driven physical pleasure. And it's something that I think should be a part of every relationship to varying degrees, something every couple should explore. And it can be a really wonderful, beautiful, satisfying, and energizing experience that, again, doesn't leave you with that post-orgasm hangover. And this can be something that a lot of couples can enjoy and use to the benefit of their relationship, even if they're not struggling with recovery from a porn-induced sexual dysfunction. So check out that article in the link below to learn more details about that, or read Marnia Robinson's book, Cupid's Poisoned Arrow. It's a very informative book on this topic. And then he says, my second question is about kinks. Now, this is where we get into the meat of today's video. My porn kinks were BDSM related, and I'm avoiding this so that I'm doing nofap correctly. So BDSM, for those of you who don't know, stands for bondage, domination, and sadomasochism. It's basically when two people, or more than two people, whatever, play with these power dynamics in a relationship. And it doesn't always have to be sexual. Sometimes it's just like playing with ropes, tying each other up, whatever, playing with pain and submission and domination. Often it is sexual, especially in a romantic relationship. And it can be something that ramps up the excitement level for a lot of people. It adds in some danger and some excitement that maybe vanilla sex is starting to lack. And so it can be very attractive for certain people, and of course certain people can really get into it, or it can take over their entire sex lives, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. He says, however, my partner is really into BDSM, and after a reboot I'd like to explore this while continuing to abstain from porn. My question is, do you think after a reboot I can explore the same sexual kinks my brain was wired up to from porn, but with a real partner if I stay away from porn? Or should I ban myself from BDSM altogether and permanently? That's a very good question. It's something a lot of us have to ask ourselves, because our common understanding of porn escalation, how we might start just with pictures or vanilla sex, but then escalate into more extreme categories. Our common understanding of that in society seems to be that pornography is allowing us to discover what we would have discovered with enough sexual exploration outside of pornography, things that we like, things that arouse us. And that can be true. But it is also very much true that pornography use, done consistently over years, has the power to condition our sexuality to respond to genres or sex acts or people who we never would have been aroused by without the influence of pornography. So it can actually change our sexual template. Now, once someone quits pornography, puts it in their past, and has enough time away from it, we tend to center back to our more innate sexual attractions. And often the genres or fetishes or kinks that we might have escalated to in our pornography use will disappear entirely. Maybe we'll even be repulsed by them, like an ex-smoker who can no longer stand the smell of tobacco and can't even be in the same room as it. But often these kinks or desires remain. They might fade into the background, won't be necessary to experience a satisfying, enjoyable sexual experience, but might always be an interest in something that you may want to explore with a partner who is also excited by that. And we can ask ourselves, would I have ever had this without my pornography use? But there really is no way to answer that. The answer is clear if those desires disappear entirely after quitting porn and being away from it for long enough. No, that was not innate to you. It was something that was conditioned into you by pornography. But when those desires remain, you can't ever really know how you would have been sexually or what would have aroused you if you had never used pornography. And that is something that you sort of have to make peace with. And then you ask yourself, well, does it matter? Should I try to abstain from these entirely just in case they're pornography induced? Or should I just explore it in real life with a partner who's also into it and enjoy myself? And I tend toward allowing sexual exploration. I don't think it's unhealthy. If you have a partner who is giving enthusiastic consent and wants to try it out with you, or is pushing for it, him or herself, because they're also excited by it. Now, I'd never recommend trying to pressure your partner into trying something that they're not excited about or not really enthusiastically willing to participate in, because that's where you can really start to corrupt a relationship and start to use your partner rather than just exploring and enjoying with them. So I don't recommend that. But if you have a partner like this gentleman does who's pushing for it and wants it, is excited by it, she shares the fantasy, then it is something I don't think is harmful to explore. And that's, of course, my opinion, my learned opinion, my experienced opinion from all the people that I've worked with and my own personal life. But, of course, my opinion. And there are those out there, even other porn recovery coaches, who will tell you not to do that. And it's up to you. It's your own decision. I will warn you against a couple of things. It should not become the centerpiece to your sexual relationship with your partner. If it becomes something, whatever kink it is, that you need each time you're intimate with each other in order to get aroused or, you just use it every time because the sex is better when it's a part of it, that's a red flag for you. It should be an accent to your sex life, a healthy, loving, gentle, or tender, intimate sex life. It shouldn't become something that is the centerpiece to your relationship. So be aware of that. Now, as for when to start incorporating it into your relationship, because right now you might want to give yourself enough time away from porn to get in touch more with your true desires. And that's perfectly fine if you want to make that choice. Or you can start incorporating some BDSM practices into your relationship sooner rather than later, if that's something that you're still excited about and she wants. And it doesn't have to be sexual all the time either. And I'm not going to write or give you a full guide to BDSM here in this video or on my website, but there are many such guides available. And you can play with power, play with domination and submission without making it overtly sexual or part of the sexual experience. And then once you get more comfortable with it, bring it into the bedroom. But you should definitely be safe about it. And if you're not sure how to do that, you should definitely educate yourself. Always set clear boundaries with each other, what's acceptable, what's not, and how to stop things or slow things down if one of you needs to do so. So that's very important, of course, to always be safe and practice enthusiastic consent with your partner. And as for your recovery from porn-induced erectile dysfunction, you say that you're already capable of having sex, even if it's only once every 2 weeks. So I'd say that at this point, you can start incorporating that into your sex life, experience it, play with it. But if you were someone who was currently unable to have sex, even without the kink, and you were trying to introduce kinks in order to force enough arousal to have sex, I would recommend against that, because you should be at a point where you can have vanilla type sex before you start exploring these kinks, because otherwise you can become reliant on them to have any sort of sexual experience at all. And like I said, that's a red flag. It can lead down a road of escalation in your relationship that can turn into you using each other to explore fantasies rather than exploring them together as an accent, as a spice, as more flavor to your sexual life. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you have your own personal experiences with this during recovery, I'd love to hear about it. And if you'd ever like my personal guidance, of course, you can find me on my website, addictedtointernetporn.com, and work with me over the phone, over a video call, or over email. And check out my website. I've got a videos and articles page now, so it's much easier to find my older articles, my previous videos, and find answers to your questions. And if you have questions that you'd like me to address in a future video or have a success story you'd like me to share, shoot me an email. You can find out how on my website. All right, everybody, have a wonderful PMO-free day, and I'll see you next time.